along in their way. It looks
Well,
like we're
somebody
live.
had to. I mean, somebody had to do something because it was getting quite ugly. Speaking about quite ugly, good morning, Michael. How
And good
how are we
morning.
doing?
And good morning from my ugly face to your ugly apartment.
Yes, I live now in a dashboard of a '59 Plymouth. You can see it right behind me.
I always wondered how Plymouth got pronounced Plymouth.
Yeah, well, I think it had something to do with the rock, did it? Although
It
I
had
don't know
something
how that
it had something to do with the people who invented our language that we use without even paying a user fee.
or attention to it. I mean, there's some creepy things in the English language. I mean, I know there's creepy things in all languages, but it seems that the English language comes up with more creepy things, more curveballs, and so on and so
There's
forth.
something about our language, Vinny, that encourages people to tell lies with it. Have you noticed?
Well,
They,
especially if
they
they get elected to an office.
they take a perfectly good language and they say what we really can do here is lie better than most people. Although Russian's a good language, an excellent language to lie in.
Yeah, because nobody knows what they're talking about.
Even if you get a pretty good, let's not say accurate, but reasonable translation, you still have no idea what they said or why they said it or how come that they hang around with each other. There's like 4 or 5 important people, an oligarch or two, a secretary of state, a dictator, and you wonder why they would be in each other's company, but they have to keep an eye on each other.
Now, where did the word oligarch come from? That's quite an interesting title. It doesn't seem like it's a fitting title for anybody. An oligarch. It sounds like a some type of cooking oil.
I was thinking large seabird.
Yeah, I was thinking oleomargarine,
We were 20 we were
oleogarch.
20 miles from Madagascar when we could see the oligarch circling the ship.
Yeah, there were big ones, tall ones, fat ones, skinny ones, lazy ones.
First, and
Out
that's
of the middle.
and from that we say first, I look at the purse.
Spill the wine. By the way, he's Michael Knight. I'm New York Vinnie, and this is Mikey and Vinnie Take on the World, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we take on the world and all the stupid stuff that goes on in it.
Here we go, Vinny. A very rich business leader with a great deal of political influence, particularly with reference to individuals who have benefited from the privatization of state run industries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So it only applies to Ruskies.
So,
An,
but what?
an oligarchy is rich people ruling after the change of state.
Right? Is there a root there? Is it what language does it come from?
It's a noun and it does not have.
I just always find it an interest. It doesn't fit the, the word doesn't fit what the person is in my mind.
Other words that mean the very same thing as oligarch are commander, despot, autocrat, totalitarian, tyrant, or authoritarian.
Well, you've
Authoritarian.
just described the Trump administration. You had
I've
one of
also,
each at least.
and don't forget Ron DeSantis because he wants to be evil too. And he's trying as hard as a little feller can try. He's worn the white go-go boots. He's tried everything in his power to say, I'm evil too. And
Oh,
now we
how
have,
we long for the days where somebody could wear a pair of boots like that and they didn't have a shot at getting elected president.
I'm trying to think of the guy from Massachusetts who ran for president.
Dukakis.
Dukakis, and he had his little head sticking out of the tank, and that was
Oh
the end of
yeah,
his career. Where's Mike Dukakis? That's him up there. That little head is him. Yeah, is he driving the tank? No, he's just sitting in it.
sitting in it. He was he was, I would say, a flawed candidate at the least. He
The
was
best. They gave one of the great lines from Saturday Night Live, however, when the guy playing him on the screen was in a phony Saturday Night Live debate with George Bush, and he said, "I can't believe it, I'm losing to this guy here. I can't believe I'm losing to this guy."
yeah, that was John Lovitz that was playing
John Lovitz.
Dukakis, and I think Will Ferrell was playing
Yeah,
Bush, wasn't he?
Bush. Yes. The great thing about his portrayal of Dukakis was that he had been the liar. He had been the pathological liar through all the Saturday Night Live routines. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And
that's the
president.
ticket. Yeah, he was pretty funny, Lovitz. I always enjoyed his
We
and you
need
know what?
John Lovitz to play the disgraced representative from New York who can't
Which
seem
one?
to the latest one.
We have I
Uh,
mean New York and Chicago and Illinois are probably tied for disgraced representatives.
at least in Illinois they go to jail. In New York they just go to Jersey,
Yeah,
have
we
lunch, and
send
come
them over to
back.
Jersey. They go to work for Chris Christie, or they
There's
take tolls on the turnpike.
there's opening in the refuge reclamation industry.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, look, there goes Meadow in her convertible.
the ref. I when you said refuse reclamation industry, it clicked in my head as refugee, and I was
Oh,
thinking. I just read a story this morning about some fine, upstanding police officers who were attacking refugee women who were brought to their police station for shelter.
well, great. Did they beat them with their sticks and shoot them with their guns and stab them with their steely knives?
No, I think they were actually having sex with them.
So that would be a crime.
Well, it would be in most states. I don't remember exactly what state it was that this all happened in, but if I'm putting my money on it, I'm saying Alabama. But who 100%? Who knows 100%?
Well, in Alabama, the refugees cause their own problems by being better educated in the police force. So there's a resentment there that cannot be denied.
Well, yeah. That's the problem. Is the southern states and Texas and so on and so forth love to send these refugees far away, to California, and what they do is every time they send the refugees away, they lower the IQ of the state by 10 points.
10 points, that's a nice round number.
Yeah, that sounds like a good number. But it's so I don't know. I mean, if I were see what I don't understand is you can't get people to work. Okay, you can't find people to clean bathrooms. You can't find people to do the menial jobs that Americans don't want to do. Yet Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis and a few other governors see fit to take these able-bodied people who come to the United States, and instead of saying, boy, we could use these people for $7 an hour that we pay in this piss poor state. Let's send them to California where they can earn $16 or $20 an hour, and they'll be welcomed with open arms.
I think that's where they were headed eventually anyway. Where would you rather go? We have an opening in California, one in Texas, and one in Arkansas.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've never been a refugee, but I'm thinking anywhere I go on the other side of the border, as long as I can work or as long as I can make some money and have a place for my family, I'm okay with it. I'm there, Um, I know that a lot of the refugees want to go to California or to New York or to New Jersey because those states have a larger population of
and
Hispanic
and
people,
and
so that
liberal
the
policies.
customs, the language
They're not
is a
shooting the
little bit
refugees at the
easier.
border.
I can't imagine trying to go into the Sack of Suds and order a hamburger in Alabama if you can't speak the language. What the heck you talking about?
I'll have a number 2, please.
Yeah, I don't understand when you need people to work in your state, when you have crops that aren't being picked, when you have all these different jobs that Americans don't want because they have their pick of jobs right now.
Well, in the Great Central Valley of the state of California, and similarly within the state of Washington, there's a lot of agricultural concerns out there, large ones, corporate concerns. And you never hear them saying, well, we had to let the Roma tomatoes rot in the field. Couldn't get anybody to pick them. You couldn't get anybody to pick them? I said that, but actually we picked them all. Yeah, they're in the truck and going to market. Well, what's the deal here? We always pick the tomatoes. And if we need help, we always find the help. And if we have to get people across the border, we'll do it ourselves. Now, we're going to bitch at election time because we're Republicans. But the fact is, we have to have young Democrats on the make pick our crops, and that's the case every year. That's why we don't want them to vote, because these are Democrats in the making, and we can't have that. What we do need them for is to get the damn Roma tomatoes into the truck. Ever seen a 18-wheeler going down the freeway with no top on it?
Yeah,
Roma tomatoes stacked to the rims.
Tomatoes just in a dump truck, really.
Yep.
Yeah, several times in Central California, as a matter of fact.
In fact, I just bought a product from Washington State yesterday in Trader Joe's. Jumbo cherries. My God.
Very good. They're very good, Michael. They're very good this time.
But at the same time, we got that from Central Washington. We also had the gentleman in Washington, D.C., who's living in his van and attacking Obama. You know where he's from, right?
No, where is he from?
He's from the great state of Washington.
Is he really?
He's a Washingtonian.
Did they say exactly where?
He's doing a plea appeal so he can be out for the Husky season.
You would understand. You're not from here.
We're going to need him. He's the offensive line coach.
I mean, what is it about somebody that possesses them to get in their van and drive to Washington, D.C. and get out of their live stream from their van, first of all. I mean, I live stream from my car every once in a while if I'm going past something interesting.
Like Obama's house?
Sunset or something like that. Yeah, I'll turn on the camera and share it with people. But if
here's the governor of Washington fighting off protesters as he tries to get out of his car in front of the governor's mansion.
I'm cruising down the street though, and I think to myself, gee, I want to, be a good day to stalk somebody. I tend to not turn the camera on.
Well, your loving audience wants to know what you're doing, and what you're doing is cleaning your gun, observing the neighborhood carefully, not seeing that the FBI has been following you for 2 weeks.
I just have trouble understanding. Okay, you want to stalk somebody, you want to maybe possibly commit a crime. I don't understand the idea of live streaming it. I'm going to do this crime. I'm going to stalk somebody. I'm going to go out and follow somebody. So I have to. It's like the people that go on Jerry Springer or what is it?
Maury.
Yeah. Like why would you do that?
They misunderstand embarrassment and personal self-destruction for fame on Maury's show. And also they find out what their good side is. Did you think my left side or my right side?
I scratch my head. I just go to myself, if I got somebody pregnant, the last thing I would want to do would be to go on television.
And you think her name is Roberta. It turns out it's Elizabeth. You find out on the show.
To the to the assembled 0.25% of people of America that watch that show on a daily basis. Why in the world?
One good thing about that show, and it pays extra on the union payment, Vinnie, and that is the cameramen are also bouncers.
Yeah. You have to be. You can't be like a little diminutive cameraman. You have to be. You have to be big. You have to be strong. Even though the cameras move themselves now, you still have to be big. You have to be strong. You have to be able to tackle somebody coming out of the audience. And if you're good enough at it, they'll give you your own show, like Steve Wilkos.
Did you
You know,
see the Los Angeles County Sheriff throwing the woman to the ground this weekend? It was played on all the networks repeatedly. I don't know if
no,
you
but it's a
managed to see it.
recurring. it's a it's a recurring feature on most news shows.
The reason I bring that up is, as I've related to you in the past, there are 18 separate gangs. That's gangs within the sheriff's department. Not one, not two, but 18 separate affiliated gangs who are made up entirely of sheriff's deputies. There's Hispanic gangs, there's black gangs, there's white power gang, white supremacy gangs, mixed gangs, trilateral associations of gangs, 18 total. And I
Yeah.
think what pissed the guy off so much that he threw the woman to the ground is she asked him which gang he was affiliated with shortly before he threw her to the ground and sprayed her in the face.
You know, that would get you beaten.
Now, I heard this on yesterday on KNX. The watch commander and the PIO for the event, was being interviewed by a reporter from KNX who asked him if that is how he, the PIO, would have handled it. And he said, well, I've given it some thought. I think, yeah, pretty much. That's what I would have done too. You're supposed to be giving us the information that we need to show the other side of this story. How awful it's been to be a deputy, and you would do the same thing. You see what's happened. You see what the reaction is. You see that she committed no crime, and you would have done the same thing. Pretty much, yeah. I would have called for more backup. Was his answer too.
Well, I guess this points for honesty, right? I mean,
He thought it was a clean takedown.
Taylor Toronto. I'm trying to figure out where in Washington he is from. Did they say his city? Because it just
They
says
say his guns are licensed to Washington State.
he's a 37-year-old from Washington State.
So he's from Washington. That's where he's from.
It's got to be the other side of the state. I don't see anybody from Seattle having enough gumption to to get off their ass.
If they won't say cold beer when they want one, if they whisper, "Did you tell the guy down there I'd like to have a beer and some peanuts, but don't yell."
So yeah, it doesn't. I haven't seen anything here about. He had lived since 2008 in Washington State with his wife, and had come to D.C. this year to pursue McCarthy's public offer to review footage of Capitol security video.
He wants to see the greatest hits from January 6th.
He wants to see himself on tape.
Well, he was there for that.
Yeah, it's. I'm just trying to figure out if it even says where he's from. I mean, this guy sounds like a psycho.
So I would say Wenatchee.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Is he's more than likely somewhere in the middle or the right side of the state.
How about Washtuckna?
They're too busy out there with milkshakes.
Well, then that just leaves Spokane.
Let's see. Toronto claimed he'd been living in his van and participating with demonstrators supporting January 6th defendants outside the D.C. jail. The protesters kicked him out late last month after they said he acted erratically and tried to play a video that showed the death of Ashley Babbitt in front of her mother.
How wonderful.
Babbitt, of course, the woman who was killed in the building.
That's one of the miracles of that day. Not that she died tragically, not that she didn't put herself in a position where there was very little else that she could have done, but that it was the only death in that regard. The guards, with all the hell they went through that day, you'd think one guy would pull his gun and just start blowing away the crowd in front of him. But no one did. No one did. That's one of the miracles of that day.
Well, but you did have a guard that died of a heart attack, a Capitol policeman.
Oh no, there was many other tragedies for that day,
Yeah.
but the one person was shot. One out of the thousands of rioting maniacs,
Yeah,
armed
it
and
is kind
unarmed.
of surprising because I'd have thought that I guess they would figured they were just so outgunned
They
and
would have been in
outnumbered that
trouble.
their focus was going to be to get the people out of the building, whoever they could get out of the building into a safe space before something really tragic happened.
Like hanging Mike Pence. They tried to hang Mike Pence, They just couldn't find. He had a meeting. If he had just canceled that meeting, we'd have a different set of candidates for the primaries in Iowa.
It's yeah, I don't know how. And then you have these idiots that are now saying, Trump at the head of the idiot class, that they would give them amnesty. Why would you give these people amnesty? Why do they deserve amnesty?
for
Why do
the
they
vote
deserve pardons?
for the hateful votes that come with that action. You can't.
Well,
The fact that they're not going to prison makes no difference in the great scale of things, but symbolically to say criminals go free when Trump is president.
well,
Criminals run the streets.
yeah, it should make a difference. If you do something like that, you should pay the price. That there's a price to be paid. Now, somebody said to me the other day we were having a discussion about this, and somebody said to me, "Well, what about
What about?
the hippies in the '60s that invaded the draft boards and stuff like that?" Well, people forget that a lot of them went to jail too when they were caught.
And a lot of them went to Vietnam.
A lot of them had worse than that. They had their deferments taken away.
Mhm.
Because many of them were on college deferments, and once they got arrested, those deferments dried up and they were shipped off.
I was 1Y, 2S. I think 1Y was my last designation. They never did get me. And I didn't take my physical at Fort Hamilton.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to take my physical there. That was always an interesting place to be
Charming base.
in those. It was New York comes to the military, but it was actually I don't know. It was a weird thing because it was in the middle of disco Brooklyn, and yet it's like this army base, and you go down there to get your physical, and you got every in those days, one of the popular things for judges to do is to tell you if you got into some kind of trouble, you got 30 days to get in the service, or else we'll send you to jail. So this meant that out of Fort Hamilton was coming the cream of the crop in New York's youth.
right to the to where they can direct traffic in Saigon with no training.
Exactly. Right. Boom. 30 days later, you better have come back here in a uniform, or else you're going to be wearing another uniform, and it's not the one you're going to be want to be wearing, I should say. Anyway, yeah, I think it's I just I've said this a lot of times before, Michael. I'll continue to say it that the real pandemic in this country is mental illness. We have a
Yeah.
generation of people who are legitimately mentally ill. I mean, if you're in your van screaming outside of Obama's house that you're going to kill him, you're mentally ill. There's no there's
And
no
to, and
middle ground there. You should be
and
locked
and
up. You should be on the street.
and to make a threat beforehand, saying we've got him surrounded.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're you're advertising what you're doing, which is a good thing. But it I don't know. It just shows the level among younger people of really sickos out there. Um,
Here's
people
something
that see no problem with picking up a gun and attacking a president, or picking up a gun and attacking a bunch of people in a supermarket, picking up a gun and attacking whoever they want to attack to make a statement.
interesting that you should bring up such a subject. I got this headline from the LA Times this morning in email. Mexican mafia member who ran the county's jail rackets is killed in prison. Michael Torres, serving 133 years in prison, is a member of the Mexican mafia who oversaw the gangs in the San Fernando Valley and controlled the drug and extortion rackets in the LA County jails. He was in charge of extortion within the jail.
Well, you have to have somebody in there and in charge. You can't just have free extortion running around.
He was attacked by California State in the California State Prison in Sacramento, where he was serving 133 years for attempted murder, conspiracy, weapons offenses, and witness tampering. Here's the line. It was unclear why Torres was killed.
He wasn't a good dude.
I don't think he could have been skimming. There's no way that after serving his 133 years, there wasn't going to be much left of him. Well, now he doesn't have to serve those 133 years. He just presents a mystery to the prison system. How did this guy get killed? We can't figure it.
Would it come under cruel and unusual punishment if they kept the body in the jail cell to serve out a sentence?
Oh, I like that.
So if you're killed in prison, we don't take you out. We just put you right back in the cell, and you stay there for 133 years.
Vinnie, you have an evil mind. I love it.
Could start to get a little stinky in there.
Could change the way we look at every single good morning. Good morning. Have you seen what's next door over here?
I'm just thinking, Michael, I don't think that's cruel and unusual punishment because you're not feeling it. You're dead.
And it's nice to see the officials at the prison letting one go. He's okay. He's going to be fine. Let him go for a couple of days.
That would give your cellmate an incentive to keep you alive.
You don't want to give mouth to mouth to a cadaver more than once.
I mean, it would certainly give an incentive to people to cellmates to keep their cellmates alive, because you wouldn't want to live with that smell for 20 years. I mean, I guess after a while they stop stinking, right?
It does take a while,
but it's a couple of months. It's not
it's not overnight.
And
although no one knows why Michael Torres was killed, everyone's going to know where that smell came from, and they know exactly why.
And there's no allspice that you can put on that, or Axe. Axe is the one that everybody uses to cover up when they don't take a shower. You could spray that. You could dip that in Axe every morning, and the smell isn't going to get much better.
Have they tried Kingsman lotion? It's particularly offensive. Remember, I had the knight's head on the top.
No, I don't think I've ever used that or smelled that even. I mean, I'm sure I smelled it because I went to summer camp. So summer camp, everybody had every kind of cheap cologne.
And a helmet on the twisty top with the face guard down.
Oh,
it's called Kingsman lotion. I can't be certain.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it at the barber shop. I think my barber had a bottle of it when I was a kid. And it had the Kingsman and the Old Spice and the green one. Was it Stevens? STPA Stevens, yeah. And then there was, of course, the container of Barbicide,
which kills all the side stuff.
Yeah, which they comb in. And I'm saying, wait a minute, home in something called barbicide, and you put it in my hair.
It's just to kill any living being on Earth within 20 feet of the
Any
barbicide.
germ don't stand a chance with barbicide.
Barbicide was the number one ingredient in the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, Trump actually stood up in front of people and said, listen, this will. What could you inject a little of this into you?
Verma. I was going to say vermicelli, but it's not. It's not that. What? What? What the hell was it? Vermectin.
Try to vermectin. Yeah, not vermicelli. Although
Same
I can
thing.
see Trump sitting there with a hypodermic trying
to shoot a noodle into his arm.
You see a little rally in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
What happened there?
Oh, he had a little rally there. He had
Did he promise to tell the truth?
Yeah, and nothing but the truth. He said that 50,000 people showed up.
No.
People are saying
that even 5,000.
It wasn't anything close to 50,000. So there he's as he does with his dick size. He also inflates his crowds.
That's what they come to see.
It's
show us your little teeny hands. Thank you. Show us your little teeny weeny hands.
Yeah. So he so he had the big rally that nobody showed up for it because he'll attract people no matter what.
Just the same way a horse attracts horseflies.
And then, of course, the Democrats, roll out Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is, shall we say, has enhanced versions of the truth.
He's ill.
He's got something going on. Yeah, he doesn't seem right, man.
No, there's something. He's not just like a governor from Utah who's lying about the election. He's got something more seriously wrong with him. And it's not going to end pretty. What came back to me the other day, Vinnie, was something I said years ago when Trump was still president. I said, this is all going to end in tragedy. I don't know how exactly. I thought my first vision was limousine into a palm tree. But I think that was only a physical attempt at my imagination to come to grips with what I was thinking, which is tragedy is the way this ends. Tragedy is the way this comes to an end. And there won't be just one guy going down. Yes, Trump will take people with him, like his poor valet. What an idiot he is. Why would you let an idiot handle your underwear? That's not going to be a good combination. In the long run, something's going to go wrong, and it's going to be on you.
Yeah, it's I mean, in the strictest sense of the word, really, his presidency has ended in tragedy. And the only thing that we should be surprised is that there are more than a few people in this country that would love to see a replay of that think that actually was good for the country.
If you remember the lady that questioned Mike Pence about why he didn't send the election back to the states, she prefaces by saying, with all the wonderful things that you and Donald Trump did for our country, why wouldn't you do that so you could continue to do wonderful things for our country? Now, there is someone who apparently doesn't know the meaning of the word wonderful.
Well, what wonderful things did he do? What things did Donald Trump and his administration accomplish while they were, basically undermining the nation? What did they do?
We opened up a wonderful new
benefited anybody except rich people.
And also, don't forget the white supremacists got a leg up too, because they were welcomed into the arms of the president.
I mean, if you, I'm going to do it right now. If you Google Donald Trump accomplishments, Uh, Trump presidential accomplishments. And of course, Google is
A reliable helper here.
a tool of the deep state.
By the
As
way, have
well.
you joined Thread yet? I asked you to join Thread on our behalf.
Okay, the national. Let's go to the National Archives. Okay, okay, let's do this. Let's go to the New York Times. A fact check list of Trump accomplishments. I really hate it when the Times does this. They do these. They try to be artsy. Just give me the damn story. I mean, I don't know how you.
Can you get past the firewall in the New York Times?
Well, no, I subscribe to the Times, but yet this is the second time this has happened. They come up with this big fancy because they want to get me to click through screens. This big fancy front page type thing, and it doesn't show you
I know it covers
anything.
it.
It's just a fact check list of Trump accomplishments, and there's nowhere to click on it to find what you want to find. The New York Times is really starting to suck. All right, let's do this. Trump administration accomplishments according to the National Archives, TrumpWhiteHouseArchives.gov. Let's see. America gained 7 million new jobs, more than 3 times the experts' projections. Well, they've gained more jobs under
Far
Biden,
more.
I think.
Far more.
Middle class family income increased nearly $6,000. Employment rate reached 3.5%. Achieved 40 months in a row with more job openings than job hirings. More Americans reported being employed than ever before. Jobless claims hit a 50-year low. The number of people claiming unemployment insurance as a share of population hit its lowest on record, and incomes rose in every single metro area in the United States for the first time in nearly 3 decades. Record stock market numbers. Yeah, this is a propaganda piece.
Well, I think, Vinnie, that all those accomplishments have been
Have been overshadowed by what
thank
Biden.
you. Overshadowed was the word I was looking for. And that's a fact. In fact, the job reports came out today, and the job addition of 200,000 new jobs, plus the unemployment rate is within plus or minus the same as it was then, 3.6.
Yeah, helped community banks by signing legislation that rolled back costly provision of Dodd-Frank. Yeah, this isn't a hit piece. It's put up here under the National Archives, and it's nothing but a Trump
Propaganda.
thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't think that my life got any better with anything that Donald Trump did while he was president, except for the COVID checks. That's about. But all the talk about Obamacare, he actually wound up making it better. After saying he was going to repeal it, he actually made it better by pouring more money into the subsidies. So it was interesting to me that all of the talk about we want to repeal it in 2 weeks, we'll show you the better plan. We never saw a better plan.
Well, Vinnie, the days of Trump were hateful days, and they were chaotic days. and they made no sense to us, to his supporters, to his cult members who helped him carry out his policies, to anyone else in the world watching. And we're not done with him yet, but it will be done. We will come to an end, and it will end in a remarkable national tragedy, which cannot be avoided because he's driving the limousine straight into the palm tree, and there's no way around that. The crazy dude is just about dead. And it seems to me that with all the violence associated with his running, with all the negative energy surrounding him as a person and as a candidate, how much longer can it be before someone takes a pot shot at somebody? How much longer can it be before the crazy people who love him the most will probably be involved in his assassination?
I tell you, I'll be honest with you. I don't see it. I don't. I just think that this is a. We've fundamentally changed. Look at the presidential campaign so far. You got DeSantis out there, virtually putting out homophobic films.
Yes.
About his campaign. It's
Did those
going
films
to
include?
be.
Did they include his go-go boots?
No, I didn't see his go-go boots anywhere on there. We made sure he kept those off. But you don't see anything about how the Republicans are going to help people, except for Christie and who's the other one I heard would actually outline a program? Will Hurd. Those are the only two Democrats that I've heard so far, Republicans, excuse me, that I've heard so far that have actually said we need policy repair here. We need to know where we're going. We need to fix immigration. We need to fix these things. We don't need to just seal the border up. We need to fix the problem.
Well, Christie's looking like an interesting candidate because he's speaking a truth that was avoided by the Republican Party en masse for the 4 years that Trump was there and for the subsequent years since he's left office, where they live in fear of offending the Fuhrer.
Well, he figured out his lane is going to be to attack Trump. And because he probably subscribes to the belief, as many people do, that Trump can handily win the Republican primary, but doesn't have a shot at the general. I disagree with that a little bit. I think there are enough stupid people in this country to elect Trump again, to go for another 4 years of that crap.
They're not stupid by itself. Yes,
well, there's enough cult people,
but there's enough anger, resentment, and white guy attitude to make Trump a viable candidate, but never a winning one. All he can do is make sure the Republicans stay in the 9th century. He's the prophet. He's the prophet. That's what he is.
I mean, you just look at what he's saying, what he's doing, everything that comes out every day about Trump, and you just scratch your head and say, why would anybody think that this guy is good for the country? What has he offered? Trump people, convince me. Tell me, I want you to convince me that he has something to offer this country that's going to make it better.
He helped me at church when I was speaking in tongues and handling rattlesnakes at the same time. And he said, no, this is a man who knows how to double task. God sent him to us, Vinnie, as a prophet to save the world.
He's the furthest thing away from godliness that you could. He's so far away from godliness. His address is hell.
Or even cleanliness. There's godliness, there's cleanliness, and there's some other nesses that he's not. But that's
Yeah,
certainly one
I
thing
just
he's not.
I don't understand how and none of the Trump people can ever tell you that I've talked to, none of them can ever say to you, well, this is what he did. This is what he accomplished. This is how my life is better today with Donald Trump as president than it is because Joe Biden's president.
Well, he's like me. He hates the same thing I hate. He fears the same thing I fear. He promises to do something about the same things that I want changed. He is my man because God sent him to be a savior for America. There's not going to be any more black people and brown people here, Vinny. God's going to save America for all the white people. There aren't going to be any refugees coming from Africa or Eastern Europe to hang out in our place because God's going to stop all that.
Well, I think that ship has sailed, Michael. I think that ship is gone on its way because
Wait till you see the cleaning, and the great rising up. You'll see. Remember what do they call it in QAnon? The end, not the end, but the great battle, the great battle, the great destruction of the world.
I'm lucky enough that I stay so far away from the QAnon stuff. I mean, at one time I kind of read some of it just to see what they were talking about, and it was so freaking whacked out that it's like when sometimes you're watching a video on YouTube and you're a quarter of the way through the video and you're saying this thing is propaganda, this is bullshit, this is some Russian must have put it up there or something stinks here. That's how I got with the QAnon stuff.
You don't want to question the authority, Vinny. Q is thinking for you and on your behalf, and he knows stuff that you don't know. So don't be questioning the authority of the Q because no one knows who that is. In fact, there might not be a Q. And that's another example of everything you know is wrong. By the way, who said that? Was it the Farshine Theater? Yes. Everything you know is wrong, says the Farshine Theater.
Everything, yeah. I just think that it's a bunch of people who've been disaffected from everything. They weren't allowed to play with other kids in the schoolyard.
Nope, no playing.
They all had to stay after school, or they were in the AV club.
I curse you to the audiovisual club, and you have to bring the projector to the room when they're going to watch Our Mr. Sun.
Right. They all still watch stuff on overhead projectors, where you have to take the wax pencil and write it on the transparency and then put it on the thing.
Can I see the next slide, please?
So it shines up on the wall. They're the ones that have the keys to the projector room, and if they don't want you to see a film, you're not going to see it. They'll take the bulb out of every projector in that room, so you won't be able to see it.
Or they'll purposely show up late for a movie that's 50 minutes long, so you don't get to see the magic ending. I'm sorry. The bell rings, everybody just gets up and leaves, and you don't see the end of the movie.
But our periods are only 45 minutes. That's the idea. You got it. You get to.
That's what I'm telling you.
You don't see Sidney Poitier leave at the end of Lilies of the Field. You see him, he's there forever. It's a whacked out. It's kind of a whacked out thing, and the fact that there's so many people that buy it, and so many people who are willing to contribute. I mean, Trump's,
we've always been
his take for his campaign has gone up since he got indicted the two times. Because he gets indicted and he collects more money.
They believe he's innocent. They believe that what they're going to have to do is impeach the Department of Justice. They're going to have to act on his behalf because Donald Trump is innocent of all crimes. And I think we can see that just by looking at his hair.
Yeah, I just.
We've always purchased snake oil. We always say that we're the country of the snake oil salesman. Yes, we're the country of the snake oil salesman because the people around him were snake oil customers. That's why we sell snake oil, because there's a line of customers down the block willing to take their ivermectin and put some on their salad.
Yeah. I mean,
Always.
I was watching a thing the other day. I forget what it was, a Western. I'm not a big Western fan, so there's a lot of Westerns I haven't seen before, but some guy comes to town and he says that he can bring back the dead.
Good job.
That he has the magic formula for bringing back the people at the cemetery.
The number one ingredient is a chili powder.
He gets this one guy to come out of the cemetery and come back, and his partner in the saloon sees him and he's all nervous. They're all talking about what a good guy he was, but then secretly the guy goes and says, "Listen, I don't want this guy coming back. He was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Here's $5,000 not to bring him back." So another guy, another woman comes up and she says, "Listen, I don't want my husband coming back. He used to beat me all the time. Here's $1,000. Please don't make him come back." And he keeps going and going. And all these people don't want the people in the cemetery to come back. And the only thing he did is he had somebody who looked like the first guy's partner walk down from the cemetery. He was in cahoots with him. He collected, I don't know, 10 grand off of these people.
For doing nothing.
But to do nothing. He says, "Okay, I'll leave them all up there. I'll leave town." And they waved at him as he left.
Thank God we pulled that one off.
Oh, my God. And this guy's going on these, little Western towns. And it just reminded me of Trump. He says, never underestimate the stupidity of people, that they actually will believe that this guy can bring back the dead, number one. And number two, that they'll pay him not to do it. They'll pay him not to do what he can't do anyway.
You can't do that. That's right. I can't.
That's right. I can't. But I unless you pay me $5,000, I'll do it.
And that was real money in those cowboy days.
And in cowboy, that was a lot of money. I mean, people were selling their horses so that this guy wouldn't bring back the dead. But he had him convinced. He was a slick looking guy, had a slick looking wagon, and waved something shiny in front of their eyes. Yeah. And it just reminded me of Trump.
Yeah.
Slick looking guy, slick looking wagon, enough people around him to figure out where he can attack, where he can exploit, and a country that is mentally weak. A country that is mentally not 100%.
How come if you can bring back the dead, we haven't heard of you, stranger? Well, they know me in Cherokee. They know me in Flagstaff. They know me down the road.
Well, they haven't had their internet installed yet.
That's a fact.
See, when they get the internet, then they'll find out about them. But they don't have the internet installed yet.
What I always wanted to know is why they had to travel to Mexico to be safe. We'll go down to Mexico. We'll be good. Well, why don't they? Can't they send somebody after you in Mexico?
They couldn't at the time.
They couldn't cross the border.
Time. I mean, I still don't think they can. I still don't think you have to have you can't just chase somebody into Mexico. You got to stop at the border. If they get over the border, you got to hope that the Mexican police will pick up the chase.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that again.
You got to hope that the Mexican. It used to be like that with states.
Yeah, across the border or counties. You don't have any jurisdiction.
Yeah, it used to be that if you were chasing somebody, they'd head toward. That's how Bonnie and Clyde got away so much. Because what they were doing was state offenses, and the state wouldn't chase you into the neighboring state. For whatever reason, they didn't want the police in that other state to come into their state.
Don't you bring none of that Oklahoma law into the great state of Texas. Now you get
We don't want that.
We don't hold with it. I don't know what holding means, but when someone doesn't hold with something, it means that they reject the premise entirely and totally.
That could be in Texas. They reject a lot of stuff in Texas. That's why
They
Buddy
do,
Holly was so anxious to get out of there.
and he never went back.
Not until he was dead. Not until he was dead in a doornail.
I miss Buddy Holly.
I didn't know him, but I miss him too. I miss his music. And
Can you imagine being a rock and roller in 1959? You go on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they put a microphone around your neck that hangs right here, so it's banging into your guitar, and it's not up here where you can sing into it. It's down here where you can't sing into it, and that was considered audio. What the hell are you doing? I'm miking our guest.
Then.
My God.
Yeah, I see some of those old Sullivan Show, and you know what was really bad is these guys used to do a lot of these hayride shows. Every state, every city in the South had a hayride show hosted by one of the local DJs. And this is Biff Jiggerman's Hayride. Today we got Buddy Holly and his Crickets. And they'd go on these shows and perform either lip sync or live, and all of these places had ancient equipment for that. And it was interesting for that time. Ancient equipment was probably 5 years old, and all of them had the microphones that strapped around your neck and came down like that, and they would move it to interview somebody.
They were only this long.
Well, now some of them were, and then they had the longer microphones too that they used to strap around the neck, which I would imagine Dennis James must have walked around after a day of doing quiz shows like, oh, my neck.
Gene Rayburn with a neck mic.
Now, didn't Rayburn actually invent the long microphone with the ball on the end?
I hope so.
I think he was. I think he was the guy that actually invented that. He actually came up with that. A lighter microphone that you could use.
The funny thing about audio on television, and it's the same today, if you ever watch a show like The Voice, where they're singing with the band live, is if you can just come up with a new way to fuck up the sound, process it, mute it, pan it down, you've got a future in television. If you have any idea about making it better, clearer, a higher fidelity, you're on the streets walking home. They won't even let you take your car out of the parking lot. You came in here to make our sound better. We're a network. Our sound is not going to get better. And name a show and playing with any band where you can hear the bass. You'll never hear the bass. There can be a drummer, and you can watch Dino Danelli doing his thing. You can't hear the snare.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they mix out. Do they intentionally mix it out, or is it just that the TV band doesn't allow for the width? I don't know, but
it's just the worst. It's absolutely the worst.
With all of the improvements that they've made in sound in television over the past 20 years, some of it sounds better, but not a lot of it.
Like if you see a late night show from Britain where they do the live music, sound is always much better. And they're playing absolutely live because they have regulations against the pre-recorded part of it.
Right.
And the BBC, even when they were doing the very first live broadcasts of rock and roll as the English Revolution was taken over, was the only outfit that would let you pre-record. They would have Led Zeppelin on, for instance, or Jimi Hendrix. And they would pre-record the rhythm guitar with a countdown to it. So that Jimmy Page could play the lead with his own guitar underneath him, just like he did on the record. And nobody else ever did that. Nobody else ever went to the trouble of pre-recording backing tracks to make the sound fuller and more like the record.
Well, most of what
Only
we
the
got
movie
here
theme.
was just the backing track. You know, probably traveled with the guy's manager. And handed to the sound guy in the studio. So that you always want. How many times did you look at a band on TV and hear horns coming in or violins, and you're looking and there's no horns? That's what was so good about Sullivan. Is
Yeah.
Sullivan made them play live, and he also wrote in parts. They also wrote in parts for their orchestra.
Yes, the arranger.
So when the Rascals were on Sullivan, you not only heard the Rascals, but you heard the Sullivan Show band, the CBS Orchestra, behind it.
And they got paid whether they played or not. They got paid for showing up.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's why I always thought that, the Letterman stuff was always probably the best on television because they cared about the sound. They cared about the arrangements. Paul Schaefer really, really absolutely cared about the music being right, the music being arranged right. It wasn't a cheap arrangement. I mean, he sat down there and he arranged those songs and stayed true to what the original songs were.
And go take a look at the times that Steely Dan appeared on Letterman. They played live, absolutely live.
Yeah.
By the way, it was announced today that the Eagles are going to conduct their last tour of their 54-year history. They're going to open at Madison Square Garden for a week. Of course, they have replacements in there. Vince Gill plays it. The son of the guy who died, Glenn Fry's son, Gunnar Fry, whatever his name is going to be part of it. And the opening act for the Eagles on the farewell long goodbye tour will be Steely Dan.
Really?
Now that's you got to admit that's a pretty good show.
That's a show. That's a show that you're going to want to see. I'm not crazy about going to.
Never seen the Eagles, but I would love to see Steely Dan.
I've seen the Eagles a few times, and it's always been a great show. I saw them. Last time I saw them was at the Tacoma Dome.
Wow.
And when they put that first reunion tour back together, what was that, 96, 97, something
Hell
like
freezes
that.
over.
And it was great. I loved it. I've always
Speaking of Tacoma, there's a new television series coming on called Tacoma FD. It's a comedy about a fire department full of idiots who start fires instead of putting them out, who make messes instead of cleaning them up, who lose cats in the wilderness instead of rescuing them. They're inefficient in all response. Whatever you want from the fire department, whenever you call them for, that's what they can't do.
I'm sure that'll go over well in Tacoma.
Well, that's going to go over big.
Well, somebody's got to be the brunt of a joke, right?
Well, usually it's Washtuckna or Wenatchee.
Or Seattle. I mean, Seattle has had its share of. But I guess they wouldn't do Seattle because they still do, or did they? If they finished up Grey's Anatomy yet?
No, they haven't.
Yeah, I've never. I don't. I think I've watched one episode of Grey's Anatomy.
They're all the same. Somebody dies who you thought was going to live. Somebody is screwing a nurse who you thought would never do it. Somebody is breaking up with somebody during an operation so that the patient dies.
I can't believe you.
Oh, my mistake.
Whoops. What do we got for perforated liver? Yeah, funny unless it's you on the table.
But yeah, well.
Yeah, it's funny. Medical shows have kind of run their course for me. I mean, it's funny. I like the real ones. Like I'll watch. There's a bunch of great series on about the British ambulance service or something like that. And those I always find entertaining. see some old British person fall down a flight of stairs is uniquely entertaining.
There's nothing funnier, really.
It's Monty Python and Benny Hill all wrapped into one.
If
Um,
she hits the landing just right, she'll go another flight. Let's see what we have here. No, she had that backspin. That stopped her right there in the landing.
yeah, but the scripted, after ER, nobody was going to really do it better.
In
I
fact,
didn't.
there are stories of the ER where the camera crew spends its time in the emergency room just filming people who are dying or trying to die or living or trying to live.
Right? Could you sign this release before you go? We want to. I always wondered about that too with HIPAA laws. How were they able to do that?
Well, they're dying to be on television. If they'll do anything, they'll reveal their deepest secrets to Maury. They're certainly glad to have their sprained ankle. I was chasing the wombat. You should never. And what happened? Well, the wombat got away, but I sprained my ankle, and on the landing, I tripped over an old lady who was falling down the stairs.
I was watching one not too long ago on one of the Discovery channels or something like that,
Right?
and there was a guy who drove into a picket fence and impaled himself
I knew it.
in the neck. And the fence, I guess, he must have missed his esophagus and missed his, everything there was to miss because the point of the picket fence was coming out of the back of his neck and the front was going in here, but yet he was walking around.
Wow. Well, let's pull that out and see how it works.
No, they didn't just pull it out; they sawed it off on both ends, which I couldn't watch. I mean, I'm usually not squeamish, but that one was a little. That one was like, I'll take a pass on this one.
What are you going to do for my treatment? Well, the incident didn't kill you, so these doctors are going to do it for you.
Yeah, we're going to have our intern come in here and work on you.
She's from Washtuckna, used to make a mean malted.
She's okay. She's living in a van with some guy that's parked outside of Obama's house.
But his guns are registered.
Yeah, I got to find out where that clown is from.
I'm surprised the Seattle Times hasn't made a piece out of it. A troubled youth makes his way to Washington.
Yes, we sent him there. We sent our reader there to see what kind of news he could make, and boy, did he make news.
Well, we've busied ourselves this hour with the lowest of the low, the American Great Unwashed. What about tomorrow on your show at 8:00 in the morning?
We're going to have a couple of unwashed cars. We're going to talk about congestion pricing on could it come to Seattle? If congestion pricing is successful in the city of New York, will Seattle be the next city to say, if you want to drive in our downtown, it's going to cost you $20?
How do you declare that? Do you have a sticker or something?
Yeah, you have a pass on your windshield, and every time you go into the city, somehow it takes your license number down and sends you a bill.
Every time. So what if your business is just congested Manhattan driving morning to noon? Do you pay every day?
You pay every day. Yeah. I don't know I haven't seen what the exemptions are yet, but as far as I could see, which, actually, Michael, and I've thought about this. I mean, this is the first time I've always wondered why we put all the cars on the street at the same time. Why in our culture don't we have trucks out from 7:00 at night until 7:00 in the morning delivering to stores? Instead of having them on the street from 7 in the morning to 7 at night and gumming up the works with everything, why aren't we doing just the opposite?
Well, it's like Bill Graham used to say, just me, Bill. I need an accommodation on these Springsteen tickets. What am I going to give tickets away? No. Just for me. Just me, Bill. I just need a ticket to the show. Well, we're not doing things that way. You have to buy a ticket to get into the show. Even me, I'm the program director at KSAN. Yeah, especially you because you can afford it, and you've probably seen Bruce Springsteen. So that's the rules here. But just me, Bill. I used to drive him crazy because for the individual to assume that everybody else has been taken care of or denied. But for me, just me, yeah, I got to get in to see the boss.
Yeah, all right. I used to buy tickets to shows all the time. Everyone, we used to get staff tickets.
For certain shows, yeah.
I don't know, to certain shows you'd get 10 staff tickets or whatever, and then you'd have to sign up. We got the more. It's interesting. We got more tickets at KUSF than we got anywhere else because
Well, they wanted you to continue supporting the.
right, right. They were, the record company would buy 10 tickets for staff or something like that. There was always some kind of subterfuge going on like that. But Graham contributed a lot of tickets to KUSF and made sure that we got into. Always made sure we got into like Wolfgang's, the Kennel Club, uh, all of the clubs that the different clubs he ran. There was always tickets around for him. That was the great thing about being at KUSF is maybe you didn't get any money, but you certainly got you certainly got to go see any show you wanted to.
Well, he supported who supported him, and you guys, mean KUSF, provided a lot of unique support to the groups that were playing the smaller clubs on their way up.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. Um, yeah, we definitely the hands washed each other.
And it was music that KTIM or KSJO or KOME were not playing at that time if they were still on the air.
Right. Yeah, for a while, for a couple of years, we were the only place. I mean, between
Who played Gang of Four? Well, not many people.
yeah, I mean KUSF, and then the Quake played it, but then the Quake went away, and a few years, I think it was 2 years later, Live 105 came on, and they wouldn't play. They only played a very narrow pop accessible type of alternative music.
Yeah.
So there was still a lot of bands that Steve Masters there wasn't going to play. So KUSF and Calex were the only two places you were going to hear him.
Is Calex still there?
Calex is still going strong, man. Still on Bowditch Street. Still right, still in that same building. Still as crazy as ever. Still playing. Still doing what they've been doing all these years. That place will never die.
Excellent.
They're not going anywhere. They're that's a state run university, obviously, so they're going to keep that program. It's part of their media program.
Well, KUSF had a media program too, and they sold out to the KDFC and KUSC, which was a cowardly thing to do.
Well, I think that it's at one point, I think ultimately, the university found KUSF to be controversial for them because the music was getting edgier, and they just wanted to get out of the radio business, which was sad. It was without a doubt it was sad. But they had it. The money always meant. There was a time where the money didn't mean much. But when all of a sudden radio stations started going for millions and millions of dollars, the administration at USF saw that as a way to bolster. They don't have a huge athletic program, so they don't make a lot of money there. They play in the WCC, so they don't. It's not like they play in the Pac-10 and they get a ton of money. They don't. So they decided that the best way to get some quick money into the place was to pull that deal off with KDFC, and I forget there was another station involved as well.
USC in LA.
Yeah, so they could wind up. I forget what they got for it, but then they get something like $8 million out of the deal. It was some bizarre amount of money.
I'd hate to find out what the Jesuits did with that. They had the Jesuit party, and until you've been to one, you don't know what high life is all about.
Well, they probably, I don't know. There was that station stayed alive because of really one person who advocated for the station on a consistent basis with the university. When the university hierarchy changed, and that person didn't have the ear of the university president anymore because it was a different university president, things started to change. When Father Lo Schiavo was there, he let he let a lot of stuff kind of look the other way, and a lot of stuff because it brought a lot of publicity and was seen as a community asset. When the guy who was there after him took over, it didn't seem like he regarded it as much of a community asset as he did a pain in the ass.
But Susie and the Banshees are live in the studio. I do not care, my son.
Yeah. See, Steve Runyon, who ran it for many, many years, knew exactly the right mix of what he knew what he could get away with and what he couldn't get away with. He was a real radio freak. I mean, he loved radio. He had gone to school there. He was on the faculty, and he knew what he could do and what the university would let him get away with. He knew where to place the religious programming that KUSF was supposed to be all about, so that he knew when the Jesuits were listening to put the programs there, and then the rest of it was Harry Duncan doing blues and me doing oldies and alternative rock. He just knew how to make it work.
And there was also foreign language to some degree.
Well, yeah, every night at 6:00 it went Chinese for an hour and a half or 2 hours. It went to the Cantonese news. So basically, they sat there and they watched Channel 7 News and repeated what they were saying in Cantonese.
Really?
But those people, but that news show, they paid huge money to be on the air at KUSF. Without the Cantonese news, there probably wouldn't have been a KUSF because they virtually made the station pay for itself.
And that's the secondary language in China. It should have been Mandarin was number one. Cantonese was a far distant second.
Yeah, I think I don't remember exactly. I think they also had Mandarin shows as well. But it was, they just, the guy running the place knew how to dance. Knew how to dance the station through where he had to do it. And when they changed administrations, when Father Lowe left, it was the handwriting was on the wall. It was only a matter of time until they were going to do something with that station. Because there were many in the university community who thought that station was a thorn in the university side.
Ooh, how
And
very biblical.
it brought them great notoriety. It was probably how most of San Francisco knew the University of San Francisco was through KUSF. Consistently pulled ratings in the market, and was had comparable listeners to many of the commercial stations in town.
Yeah, because if it's placed on the dial and its original license, even if it were sold, it still had to remain non-commercial.
Right. But as we now know, there's so many different ways. They loosened all that stuff up a bunch of years ago. What you could say, what you could run, what you could put on the air. I mean, now you virtually can put spots on the air for, it used to be that it was just a mention. It had to be like a 10-second mention. Now you can do a produced spot and everything, as long as you don't. I forget what it is. It's all so changed now. But with deregulation came deregulation of non-commercial stations as well.
Well, no, also they'll tell you it's not a commercial. It's a
underwriting spot.
Underwriting. Somebody has pledged a certain level of support.
Yeah. It's so anyway.
Like Subaru of Glendale is a big part of a KCSN for California State Northridge.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Subaru is like right up the NPR alley.
88.5, the SoCal sound. That's my station.
Ah. Yeah. We have up here we have KEXP, which was bought and funded by Paul Allen.
Is it still non-commercial?
And he's still non-commercial. He left a huge endowment for it. And they'll probably go on. They probably got enough money to go on for 50 years.
So do they pay their staff?
I think it's a mixture of community volunteers and paid staff. I mean, I think, like the program director gets paid. I don't know that the air staff gets paid.
No, that's backwards. Pay the air staff and make the program director work for
it's
nothing.
Probably run more on a model of a PBS type of station than it is a college station, because it's not really a college station anymore. It was at one time. I forget.
Who owns the license?
Paul Allen. Well, no. The license is owned by the KEXP Foundation,
right,
which is funded by Paul Allen. Well, was funded by Paul. It's still funded by him. Even after he died, he left them. It's like the Ray Kroc deal. Roy
Kroc.
No, Ray Kroc.
I thought it was Roy.
No, I think it's Ray Kroc.
Okay.
McDonald's guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ray Kroc. On the Padres. Yeah, his wife, Joan, left an enormous endowment.
For KPBS in San Diego.
For all public radio stations.
Wow.
I mean, the corporation for all the public radio stations in the country get money from that endowment. I forget how many millions she left, but she left a considerable amount of her fortune.
Well, I would suggest to her in heaven, wherever she is, that you stop paying the program director, pay the staff, and make the program director volunteer his work, because that's all it's worth.
Well, she might be listening. She was an attentive listener, from what I understand. All right, so tomorrow we got a show, 8:00 tomorrow morning. What are you doing this weekend? Anything?
Maybe going over to the kids' house. I've started the last 2 weeks ago, I started power walking with intent in the full sun, 80 degrees, getting out there to really put the sweat on. And it reminds me of Bob Dylan saying, "Of course you can come back. You just can't come back all the way." So today I'll be hitting the streets to do a couple miles, and it's a challenge to do it in the heat, but that's my way.
Well, pace yourself. Go.
I have to, because there's nobody with me.
Yeah, don't knock yourself out. Just have to have a good power walk, but not an overpowering walk.
Not too much good. Not too much good stuff.
Yeah. All right, man. I will catch up with you on Monday if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise.
A malodorous, morose Monday.
Who knows? You know, that's the great thing about life these days. We just don't know what's going to happen over the weekend.
You know there's going to be bad news. You just don't know how much of it or where it's coming from or the details. That's why the
Well,
LA Times writes, "We don't know why Mr. Torres was killed." Well, read the first 2 paragraphs of your story, and that'll give you some idea why he was killed.
yeah, we don't know why, but we're going to find out. We're working to find out.
We'll get to the bottom of this before long.
That's the new catchphrase in news. We're working to find out.
What's the word that they not breaking news, but developing news.
Developing news. Yes, they're off of breaking news now. Now it's developing news.
This was a breaking news story that has developed into something else.
And I still haven't gotten an answer to the question of where are the CNN anchors running to all the time?
I mean, when they leave the,
Like
they
it,
say
like
we'll be
it-
right
it's
back,
in
and then they
the
run
segment,
away.
They all of a sudden seem to be running away. I mean, do they have a bar set up back there with their snacks
It's
backstage? I mean, what's going on there?
It's the mechanized cameras. If you just stand there, the cameras will take you out. They're going someplace. Get the hell off the set. The cameras rule.
Yeah, I don't get why they seem to be getting their power walking in on screen.
And stop carrying papers with you that you don't refer to.
Well,
It
that's always
doesn't make you look like a reporter. Just have a piece of paper in your hand, especially when you don't refer to it. You don't glance at it. There's nothing on it worth reading. You got a teleprompter. Use that.
well, but that's why you have the paper in case the teleprompter dies or something happens. You can still look down and read the story. It's not they don't use it. It's not there for anything but an emergency.
A backup failsafe.
Yeah, if the teleprompter and many times, I mean, a few times when I was doing sports, the teleprompter died, and you just look down at you have a printout of what's on the teleprompter, and so you can look down. It's just that what you don't do is you don't turn the page. So
When the teleprompter dies, what happens?
you look down and start reading your script,
Mhm.
or you better be good at tap dancing.
I like the tap dance part.
The tap dance part can you better remember what you wrote.
Because if you haven't seen Vinnie do the soft shoe, you don't understand why it's called soft shoe.
You ain't lived until you've seen me go humana, humana, humana. And the Mariners played a baseball game today against another team.
And the other team beat the pants off of them.
Hey, it's All-Star Week next week. I'm trying to get out of town for the whole week.
I'm going to hit a home run.
I don't know. I got little to no interest in the whole thing.
Well, they've made it that way. They've advanced the game to such an extent that no one cares if you play it or not.
Little to no interest. It's a shame. I used to love the baseball All-Star game, and now I'm looking to get out of town next week.
Who's going for the Mets?
I don't even know.
I don't know who's going for the Giants. They pick. The Giants have always been the team where the manager of the other team has to pick one player.
Yeah.
I'll take Hobie Landreth. Well, he ain't an all-star.
That's okay. We'll have him here anyway. Who's your all-star this week? Oh, Chris Cannizzaro. Oh, okay. All right, man. I will see you on Monday if the Lord's willing, the creek don't rise.
All right, Vinny. Have a great weekend. Have a good show tomorrow at 8:00.
All right. Thanks, Mikey. Peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
What a why.
Take care of yourself. Thank you all for listening, too. Bye-bye.
Off you go.